Oh, I forgot my screen. No, you know what, I think I'll just wait. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome and good evening. You've arrived at the 34th District Democrats pre-meeting program. In a moment, our first Vice Chair, Rachel Glass, will kick off the program, and I'll call the official meeting to order at 7:15. Without further delay, Rachel, would you go ahead and make the introduction?
Thank you, Carla. Just wanted to let you all know, just in case you're wondering where you are right now, this is our pre-program with our special guest, Reverend Harriet Walden from the Mothers for Police Accountability. So that's where you are in the program. I just wanted to do a quick housekeeping moment here. She's going to present information, and then we're going to have opportunity for questions from the audience. So what I'm asking is if you can send me, just private chat me your questions, and then I will go ahead and read them so that Reverend Walden can concentrate on her material, and I'll just feed her the questions. So if you have questions that come up during the program, please just private message them to me, and I will be sure that she gets the questions, and we'll get to answer hopefully all the questions tonight. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our special guest. Reverend Harriet Walden is a police accountability and peace activist. She has been working tirelessly for police accountability in the Seattle area for 30 years. And she has a personal connection to why she has decided to do this work, angered by the brutal beating of her two teenage sons in 1990, inspired her to model a healthy response. And the group Mothers was formed from her anger and determination. And the first meeting of Mothers for Police Accountability was held in September of 1990. And without further ado, please give a warm 34th LD welcome to Reverend Harriet Walden.
Oh, good evening. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I never thought that I'd still be doing this 32 years later. I mean, you know, my grandchildren are grown, and my oldest granddaughter will be 25 this year. So it's been a generation of doing this work. And we started out the name of Mothers Against Police Harassment. And then we had a name change. And so as a result of that, we changed our name probably in 1996 to Mothers for Police Accountability, because our work was more than just a harassment. It was about accountability. I mean, it was always about accountability. We were the first group in America to use police accountability. It's a household word now. Everybody uses it. In fact, you got the coalition of Washington State coalitions of police accountability. These are families who are affected by police shootings and violence and stuff. So anyway, I always like to say that I was drafted to do this work. I wasn't planning on doing it. I was not at home that time when the police beat my kids up. I had my own business, and I worked, and I always went away the last weekend of the month, or sometimes I would do that. And it was right at the Black Community Festival. They were going home, and they got themselves. The police stopped them right at my house. I lived on 29th and Jackson at that time, and as a result of that, it escalated. It did not de-escalate. I was not at home. If I'd have been at home, it might have de-escalated because I went outside and got them. But they got beat up and got taken to juvie. And then my second oldest son, Chikunde Salisbury, he went and got them out. So, and when I came back and I got home, and I was wondering, and I was calling around to find out what kind of help I could get. It was no organization that was actually helping people with their children who've been arrested or been harassed by the police. In those days, the young people was made to take the position. Police was putting guns to kids' heads in the early 90s. It was really a bad scene. The people who were selling crack and all kinds of stuff had moved up to Seattle. And a lot of the children was just being harassed. The kids, I always say the police sometimes knows who's breaking the law, and sometimes they harass the other kids, some who's not, and then they wind up getting a ticket or whatever. So we had a series of workshops on what to do when you get stopped by the police. We thought it was real important to actually teach young people what to do when they get stopped by the police. I mean, really, number one, they need to be quiet. They talk too much, and sometimes they don't understand that everything they say is going to be written up on a police report and used in court to get against them. So, and then we became great friends with the ACLU, and we would pass out the bus cards on what to do when you get stopped by the police, and that was one of the things that we did. And but also the first 2 years that we were around, we invited the police to our meeting all the time, and so they brought all the information that we ever put out in the public. The code of ethics, everything we ever printed, we got it from them. So they could never say we were telling the tale. We even had them to bring the machine out of the car that they used to key up people's license on, so people could see, how that works. We also told people, if you had a warrant, don't show up, because we cannot keep you from going to jail. If you got a warrant and they key you up and you got a warrant, you're going to be arrested. So our goal was to actually educate people about their rights and also go to court with people. I never dreamed that we would still be doing this 30 years, a generation ago. Like I said, all my kids are grown. My oldest son passed in the spirit 2005. His name was Hiram. But I have three other sons, and I have 6 grandchildren. And like I say, my oldest is 25. I'll be 25 this year. So, and I have one that just graduated from Tuskegee, one that just graduated from Elizabeth City State, and she's working over at Fred Hutch, and my granddaughter down in Tuskegee, she's going to be in the veterinarian program. And when she went to school, she took her horse with her, so we know she's not coming back. Anytime you take your horse with you, means you're not coming back. So anyway, we've had a great relationship with a lot of organizations. We had a great relationship with the Church Council of Greater Seattle. At one time they had a newspaper, and we were always in their newspaper. And our main success in the beginning was sending out letters all over every place. We would always send the letters out when people had a problem with the police. We always would take the complaints, but we were not attorneys, and we would at that time take the complaints and send it to the police chief, and then they would send it down the chain of command, whoever was going to be investigating it. But our whole goal was to be able to work in partnership and see how we could create relationships. Because I don't care when somebody gets killed by the police, you're back to square one anyway. You cannot build a relationship in the midst of a crisis. We saw that after the untimely death of Mr. George Floyd. You cannot build relationships in a time of tragedy. You have to have relationships going all the time. And this work is ebb and flow. It really is. And so after the untimely death of Mr. George Floyd, bless his heart. And one of the things, I'm a weaver, so I speak differently as most people, a lot of people, but I'm a weaver when I'm speaking. And one of the things that just struck me about Mr. Floyd, I mean, as a mother who's lost a child, I mean, what struck me so much about that case is that he called on his mother, and his mother was already in spirit. So she came and got him. We don't know how long the children might have been on his neck, but I'm always struck by that he called on his mother, and she was already in spirit. And so she said, okay, he's not going to get off my son's neck, so let me just go ahead and bring him on with me. I mean, so as a mother who has a child in spirit, and I know that mothers always come when their children call them. I don't care how old mothers are, if they can get up and their children call them, or their sisters' children call them, because they said sometimes it's so much, sometimes they say it's better to be an auntie. And my kids used to say, oh, well, we don't have any cousins because you was an only child. We didn't have anybody to help us fight. So I always got blamed because they didn't have any cousins. But they always said that the best kind of life is having an auntie, so, and that kind of stuff. So we've worked across the country. We were part of the National Coalition for Police Accountability. Bob Lamb, who used to run the office, the late Bob Lamb down. He worked in the FBI Community Relations Department. And I didn't know Bob Lamb. He called me in and he said he wanted to meet me. And he actually talked to me about my work. And he said, I want to put you together with a lady in Chicago called Mary Powers, the late Mary Powers. She had Citizen Alert and she did police accountability. She was a suburban white lady who had gone to the apartment where Fred Hampton got shot. When she went to that apartment, it was only one bullet hole shot from the inside and the rest of them came from the outside and when Fred Hampton got murdered. So she started Citizen Alert and she worked tirelessly there in Chicago. She was responsible for putting Aaron Burt, when he finally got arrested, police chief that was torturing people. So I was in Chicago all the time with Mary Powers and Bob Lamb put that connection together. He said, I want you to meet these people across the country. So he connected me with people across the country who was doing police accountability work. And so we had Citizens Alert many, many years. She passed away a few years ago and she did this work all of her life, all the way up till she was 92 years old, the great Mary Powers did. And so we would meet Van Jones, who's now on CNN. He used to be there from Chicago, from Oakland and the Bay Area because he had he had got a couple of police fired. And so it's people all across the country who come to work on police issues and policies and see how we can make things better across the country. And of course, our organization grew here. And we continued to work in coalition. Our strength was we worked in coalition with other groups, the ACLU, the Church Council of Greater Seattle, Diane Narasaki with the Asian Referral Center, and so many other groups. And fast forwarding up to, we just kept doing this work. And then in 2010, when the untimely death of John T. Williams, all the groups that was doing police accountability group came together under the MEDC Police Accountability Task Force. And we were we worked together to actually bring the DOJ to town. That was the year that Mr. John T. Williams, the late Mr. Williams, he was such a wood carver, and that was such a bad shooting, and he was an artist, and he was engrossed in dreaming and walking across the street, and that shooting just really just kind of all of them. A lot of the shootings. Charlie in the Laos was another shooting that really impacted me personally, because she was only 97 pounds and the police could not figure out how not to kill her. 97. She wasn't a big woman, she was 97, and it looks like, and that's just why when I mentioned a lot of times about out of policy takedown. What would have happened had it been an out of policy takedown? An out of policy takedown is a takedown that the police officer might use that's not in policy, but would the officer still have his job? But an out of policy takedown with Charlie in the Laos would allow her to be here today. And then the other things that I really work on a lot is multiple shooters, because every department around America has multiple shooters. Someone who has actually even children there in Mr. Floyd. That was a third person that he had killed. But it was justified, but this last one wasn't. So multiple shooters. I'm convinced, and I believe, I'm convinced that that multiple shooters actually we need to figure out a way to maybe move multiple shooters off the police department, because you have officers that's been there for 30 years and never discharged their weapon. So how can an officer go through a lifetime and never discharge their weapon? And another officer is a multiple shooter. So I think that that's a whole area that needs to be talked about. The other thing that we've done over the years is educate people about the contract, because the contract is what rules everything. This last contract that the city signed, we told them that it it was going to take us back all the way to 2000, all the way back to 2005, and that's what it did. And so actually, a lot of the gains that we had made, I was trying to make when we became, when the CPC actually was, I am on the CPC, that's Community Police Commission. That was as a result of the city, the DOJ found that the city we had a lot of irregularities, and one of them was unconstitutional policing. It was 9-10 areas where they found that the police department had some irregularities. And so the DOJ came to town and absolutely signed an agreement with the city of Seattle, and they entered it into a consent decree with a monitor. And part of the consent decree, part of that settlement was to set up a group, set us up called the Community Police Commission. And we were supposed to go away once the consent decree was over. But in 2017, we did there was an ordinance passed that would make the Community Police Commission permanent. And then because we had done the hard work, we had to help set up the, all the work to set up the IGs, the Office of Inspector General office. And of course, we were working also with the with OPA. And at that time, OPA really wasn't all set up because we still had the auditor. And then after the auditor, I was no longer, the Office of Police Accountability was set up. And Tito he was an interim director. And then Marburg was hired as the director of the OPA. And so this system is still very new. I mean, I know it's a lot of stuff in the news about it, but it's still a very new system to have this level of police accountability with this Community Police Commission, and also with the Office of Police Accountability, and also with the Office of Inspector General. And the Office of Inspector General is supposed to be eventually to be the hammer to actually, to have to make sure that the training gets done, or make recommendation. The CPC makes recommendation, but sometimes the police department doesn't always accept our recommendation, and sometimes they don't always train to them. And the one thing that we always like to tell people all the time, if the policy is not updated, and the officers are not trained to the policy, then how many if the policy is not updated and the officers are not trained to the new policy, it would be no discipline. And so that's why policy is important, but it's also important to be updated and also have the policy. I think some of the policy actually you need to have at least a lot more people in the community working on those to be able to look at it and be able to, to talk about it and to have a little bit more engagement. So there's still a lot of work to be done around the commission and getting the community involved in those issues. There was a meeting last night also with the DOJ, actually trying to educate the community about the consent decree. And one of the things I was thinking about the consent decree is that I think that sometimes grassroots people don't always ask the right questions, because in most people's mind, police accountability means a decrease in the police shootings. But the consent decree, they don't look at individual cases. They look at a pattern in practice, but they're not looking at individual cases. The community is looking at individual cases and wondering why, the shootings have not gone down in a lot of areas. But it's been some improvement with the police department. You wouldn't believe that after 2020, but before June of 2020, the Seattle City was trying to come from under the consent decree. And then they withdrew their filing to come from under the consent decree. So it looked like we have some questions. So would you like for me to stop and answer some of the questions, or how would you like for me to proceed?
I am happy to. I didn't want to interrupt you, so I'm happy to offer some questions up here, and you can address them in any way you like.
Okay, if I'm able.
Yeah. So this first one is sort of a hypothetical, and I will use the first person here. If I led an organization whose purpose is to help unemployed persons of color to successfully find employment. And apply for Seattle City funds, and you are on the committee to vet such organizations. What
No.
criteria would you imagine using to screen these organizations that are seeking funding from the city?
Oh, well, that's hypothetical because the Community Police Commission has nothing to do with hiring for the city. See, so all we look at is practice and policy, and it's all around police issues. So that would not be anything that would come near anything that I've ever done in the city, and so I wouldn't have any way of answering that question.
So there are no city funds that that you or any organizations that you work with receive specifically for this kind of work?
Well, I mean, the CPC people on there get a stipend. I did work for that. I mean, for all that time, I've given thousands of my hours since 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a small stipend that just probably buys you gas. But if that person is trying to elude and want to find out has Mother's Police Accountability ever got any money from the city, I know. I mean, years ago, we got like $15,000 to help another group put out a resource book. Mother's Police Accountability is all volunteer. We're one of the few all volunteer in our organization still around. And that's how we set it up, because I was always self-employed and I always had my own business when I started Mothers in 1990. So no, if that person is wanting to know if we have gotten funds from the police department, well, no, that's not true. Not Mothers, the police accountability.
I think specifically this is about an organization that is helping unemployed
Right.
persons of color to find employment.
Yeah, so that would not be anything that I could help with, because I don't know anything about that. I mean, the Department of HSD, Human Services, that would be the place that I would look at, because they are the ones that get the funds to be able to fund nonprofits out in the community.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And thanks for the question, Elizabeth. So here's another question. Do you know of or do any partnering with the organization? Let's see, it's the Center for Policing Equity. And this is the only organization that our member knows of that's effectively redesigning police response to be, significantly more equitable. Do you know of this organization? Have you worked with them?
No, I have not worked with them. I don't know anything about them. I mean, no, I don't know about them at all. I mean, they're probably doing a lot of good work. It's a lot of reimagining policing. But I think when people are reimagining it and policing, they have to see how everything fits together. Mm-hmm. And Mothers was not part of defunding because we didn't think the police department should be defunded. I think you might look at how you could do some things differently. But a lot of these programs, a lot of things that's housed in the police bureau fits together. I mean, like if you take out the domestic violence and a lot of this other stuff, things they want to give to social services, which might be good. But one thing about it is that social service and social workers would not know if there's a restraining order. I mean, there are some things you lose by moving outside the police department. Then you have to come up with MOUs and all kinds of other things that people don't realize in working together, how it all fits together. And I think that we were so fast last summer, 2 summers ago, that the city and a lot of the people on the city council was neophytes. They had just got elected. They'd only been there 6 months, and these people made great decisions about policing. And some of them had never read the consent decree. I mean, some of them, because I've talked to some of them, they had not read the consent decree and all of that, and did not understand that they took an oath that every sector should have adequate police department, police safety, public safety. That was part of their oath that they took when they the part of the charter for Seattle, that their responsibility is to make sure that every sector of Seattle has adequate police department, adequate police protection. And I don't think they understood what that looked like, or they didn't understand. And so there's a lot of things that we see right now that is really affecting Seattle, that is based on what happened in 2020.
I have another question here. How many members are on the CPC and what are the backgrounds of the members?
Wow, that's a good question. But all the members is on the website, I believe. So I think that's been updated. I mean, I'm the last older member there. I was appointed by McGinn. McGinn appointed the first 15, and then that we had 15 until we did the ordinance in 2017. I don't know why we went to 21, but we did because there was 3 appointing authorities. The mayor office, the mayor gets to appoint 7, the city council gets to appoint 7, and the community police commission gets to appoint 7 because we're an independent body operating in Seattle. And so right now we're not up to 21 right now. I mean, I think we have some spaces. I think the mayor has several seats that people is coming off that he'd be able to appoint some people. And then the city council, we only have 1 seat, I think, for the CPC. All our seats are filled. The backgrounds of the individuals are varied because anybody can apply. But McGinn appointed people who had been doing police accountability work. Out of the 15, at least 7 group people, or 7 of the people represented organizations or attorneys. The ACLU was there. The Public Defender Association was there. Mothers for Police Accountability. The Asian Resource Center was there. And so that's how it went before. And then we had someone representing the unhoused, and then someone that was representing and was working with mentally ill, and those were the categories that we had filled before. And so now, since the ordinance, like I said, we went to 21, and there are some openings, and anybody can apply. You can apply, I think, through our website, but you can also apply through the appointing authority. I mean, the mayor's office, like I say, have about 3 or 4, maybe more than that, seats available. I'm not sure. And usually people are there representing a certain community that they represent, and that's how it's been scheduled. That's how it's been in the past, and I know things are always changing and stuff like that. So I hope I answered that question pretty good because we have some openings. I hope you're interested. Apply.
There you go.
Apply to be a
Anne. We've got a
commissioner.
new job for Anne.
Yeah, please apply.
We have another question. Can you talk a little bit about the school to prison pipeline and how did mothers come to address this and the law enforcement angle associated with it?
Well, mothers believe that the school to prison pipeline starts in the home. I mean, so we always work with parents. I mean, really and truly, because of parents parents and schools, because I have a program that I wrote called The Place of Excellence. So I did all this work, plus I went in the homes at night to work with parents and have them sign a contract and working with their children. So I believe that if parents could actually, I'm not blaming parents because I had 4 children myself, but I know that parents have to be a little bit more involved. It actually involved making sure that kids bring their books home. I've been in plenty of homes where kids didn't bring their books home, but they were still rewarded at the end of the week to go to a football game. So if you're not bringing your books home, and then you still get to go to a football game, then there's no accountability. So accountability begins in the home, and then it goes to the school. And I think parents should be put in the classrooms. I mean, all of this is that there's another component here. I came out of the bowels of segregation. I never had a white teacher in my life. All my teachers was taught by the great late Mary McLeod Bethune. And if anyone happened to see Hidden Figures, that's what I grew up in. I never had a new book, and I didn't have a public library. But I had teachers who loved me. I have teachers who was determined to teach me. The teachers who, and it was no public promotions. I mean, either you, there was no social promotions. Either you made the grade or you didn't. And so I come from a whole other era. And I made sure my children could read because it was my responsibility to do that. It was my responsibility to make sure that I gave them homework every night, whether the teachers gave them every night or gave them homework or not. And so that's the background that I came from. And that's the background that I worked out of You know, I mean, I believe all of this has always been there. I came out of segregation. That was but we didn't have a so-called pipeline, whatever that is. You didn't have a pipeline until integration. Let's be real here. You got the pipeline after integration. And then after integration, 28,000 Black teachers lost their jobs because white people said they would not have them teaching their children. You had special ed that came up. There was no special ed during segregation. Special ed came up after doing the Southern strategy, because the Southern strategy was they would never let white kids be taught by Black male teachers. They lost all their jobs. And also they would not want Black boys in the classroom with white girls. And so that's when special ed came up. So all of this is directly related to the Southern strategy that was determined to take back everything that was won through the Civil Rights Act, through the Civil Rights Movement. That Civil Rights Movement is still going on now. But that's the genesis of anything talking about the pipeline, the prison. You got to go back and read history. You got to go back and understand how we got here. That we did not have this before integration. So everything we have now post-integration is because of what we have today, is that it's unresolved racism. And until we talk about racism and hatred of the Negro that's so pronounced today, we're not going to ever solve the problem. It's about hatred. And the seed of hatred has not been dug up in America. And it's crushing America. Some people would rather be and help the Russians than to actually talk about diversity, fairness, and actually opening the door for other people. See, so that's part of what we're going through right now, is that we have not, it's 159 years since Lincoln signed that paper, and racism is still running America. And that's where the shame is. You know, I mean, all these other things is, the violence and the escalating of violence in the community. America is a violent country. I mean, people are bored and they take up guns. I mean, at least the people in the Ukraine, they're fighting for freedom. They're fighting for something else that's different. Americans are actually sometimes be fighting just to fight. I mean, get bored and go and shoot up a classroom. I mean, there's something about the mentality of that has not been looked at. We need to look at what causes this and what prompts people to want to be violent. I mean, when peace is possible, it absolutely is. That's the only thing that's going to get us there. Is collaboration, consideration. It's collaboration, consideration, and it's one more. I think it might be compassion. I have to go back and look what the other one is. But we must learn how to collaborate. We must learn how to have consideration, for one another, so all the voices can be heard. And if we could do that and bring some compassion with us, well, man, it's like, wow. I mean, actually, we could change this overnight. It's not hard to be loving. It's not hard to have compassion. It's not hard to care for somebody. It's not hard to say, how are you doing? It's not hard to call somebody and say, how are you doing today? How can I be of service to you? All of this, it's not hard. But we don't teach that. We don't teach children. I mean, being kind doesn't cost anything. Mm-hmm. And the greatest gift my grandmother gave me, my grandmother was born in 1889, and her first husband was lynched by some white people. But she taught me not to be a hater. She really did, because, she told me she said, hatred, people, all you got to do is do better. It's just like hatred doesn't solve anything. And she just told me to do better and not become a hater. That's the greatest gift my grandmother ever taught me, was not to become a hater. People actually just hate people. I was walking across the street on First in Columbia back in November 18th. A guy was trying to hit me. He got out of his car and he called me all kind of NBs. He didn't know me. He hit me. I was assaulted downtown by a young white guy. And I said, I wonder who raised him. I wonder who raised him to be a hater. Because you can teach love just like you can teach hate. You can teach it. You absolutely can. And you can tell the children who parents are teaching them to love. You could tell it to them. It's on their face. They're smiling at you. They're waving at you. And then you have the parents who are teaching children other things. But this guy didn't know me. I didn't do anything to him. He just didn't like how I looked, and he tried to hit me with his car. And then after that, he got out, called me some names. I came from the South. I called him back to him. You know, whatever he called me, I called it back. I mean, I grew up doing the dozen. I mean, so I'm not afraid of names. And so I turned to walk away, and then he threw he had a container of motor oil, and he threw it and hit me as hard as he could in my back. And you know what my blessing was that day? He might have had 50 guns at home, but he walked away, but he walked out of his house that day without a gun. Because he was in close proximity with me, to me. Had he had a gun that day, he would have killed me. So that was my blessing that day. I said, wow, he might have so many guns he couldn't even get in his house. But that particular day, my blessing is that he didn't have one. See, so it's hatred. See, we have to move past it. You know, Martin Luther King said, you know, I mean, he's going to stick with love because hatred is too great of a burden. And we still back at that place. So all these things about, you know, prison to pipeline and school to pipeline, all of that's still part of the oppression, and it's still part of hatred. You know, we as Black people have known no safety in 400 years. Just think about that. I mean, I heard one of the people on the news said, this lady from Ukraine, she said she was America, she could be safe. But think about the people who've never been safe. Think about our nervous system that is always up. You know, think about people who every time they get in their car, they've never been arrested in their life. The man could be 60 and the police comes behind that car, his blood pressure goes up. Think about the people who go into the emergency room and people just treat them terrible. I mean, think about what we have gone through, and we still here, and our nervous system is out of whack because, you know, we on fight or flight all the time. So I think my time is about up, but love is the only thing that's going to get us through here. My time up.
I do have a few more questions. We have about 8 more minutes.
Okay.
So I'll just bring the questions.
Okay.
One of our audience has a question about the consent decree. If you could just talk a little bit more about that and any progress or blockers that you have seen.
Well, the city wants to come from under the consent decree right now. I mean, because everybody wants to go home and move on. I mean, right now the monitor is presenting his sustainment plan. And we had a meeting last night with we hosted a meeting with the DOJ and the police department. It was talking about stops and detention. And I mean, we'll have another meeting next month when the monitor comes and presents stops and stops and I just got to remember what I just said, but I'll come back to that. But one of the things that we're working on is looking where the gaps are. And so when he files in the court, what the CPC will do is look where the gaps are to make sure that the judge understands that where we see the gaps are, at least we'll be doing that. And the CPC is the Community Police Commission. So the consent decree actually had 10 areas where the police department was out of alignment. And I didn't bring them all with me tonight. I mean, I've done this for so long that sometimes I just I'm not going to keep it all in my head because that's the beginning of Alzheimer's. But so anyway, it is on our website. It's on, and I can get you some more information. In fact, I've taught it so much until I tried to kind of like put it aside a little bit. And I was in a meeting last night talking about the consent decree. So I wish we had been there. So, but I can get you some more information about the consent decree.
Here's another question. Have you seen an increase in statistical capturing of police conduct, like uses of force, etc.?
I mean, I didn't bring in the stats with me. I guess there has been some, but I didn't bring in the stats with me because that's not what I didn't know I needed to bring the stats. But there has been, I mean, there has been a police complaints that's gone into the OPA because we don't. This Community Police Commission, we don't look at complaints. We can only look at closed cases. So we don't get a chance to look at complaints that people might be complaining about until the OPA has made a finding, and then it makes a finding that goes to the police chief, and then the police chief, I mean, if it's a finding recommending discipline, then the police chief will recommend the discipline or not recommend discipline. But that's not part of what we can have. That's not part of our work. Is to look at that. We can only look at closed cases and make recommendations to the OPA for changes in the policy is what we can do.
So here's something that might be on that same vein. Has Mothers ever interacted with the public or SPD on its recruiting policies? And if yes, what aspects and issues?
Well, what I used to do when Mothers was out and I see people, I've actually tried to recruit people that I thought could make good police candidates for policemen. So we've done that, but also the police department actually came up with a good policy not too long ago, and they did a lot of outreach. And this was before CHOP, of course. And actually, I think they even had a program that they were working with up in Seattle Central to actually get more information and about more outreach. And so I personally have not done that no more than what I've said. And then I used to go up and see when I think his name was John Hayes. Now he's assistant chief back in North Carolina. When he was on the department, I would always tell Captain John Hayes, look, I met this guy here. Here's his telephone number. He said he might be interested in being a police officer. And I did a lot of things on one-on-one is what I did for when I saw somebody that looked like they would make a good police officer. And so most of the time they were actually security guards at the bank. And I said, you're comfortable walking with a gun? I said, you look like you could be doing something else. Look like you had a lot of kindness and you were friendly. Have you ever thought about being law enforcement? And so I would take their names of people and then I would give them to John Hayes to actually have follow up. And that's personally what I've done.
We got time for one more. Are police officer cameras, and I'm assuming that's body cams, are those required in the state of Washington? And if so, do you think that the cameras have made a difference in incidents of police violence?
But they're not required in the state of Washington. There's no requirements. I was on the body camera task force. It fell apart at the end. I mean, because it was a lot of pushback. You got quite a few counties and cities in the state of Washington. So no, but in Seattle they are required, and they're supposed to have them on. Put the body cameras on, make sure the cameras are on, and it has made a lot of difference. And it was the body cameras the reason why George Floyd, the untimely death of George Floyd, the world knows about it. And so many other cases, Mr. Philando, who actually, his girlfriend filmed the fact that he had got shot in the car. And so there's a lot of things that has happened with the body cameras. I think Vashon Island, Bainbridge Island, I think they stopped using them because the amount of money that it takes to keep them stored and stuff like that, it got to be an expense. And so small municipalities might not have as many, might not have the body cameras as much as a large city like Seattle. And I don't know if Spokane has them, but it's no city, it's no statewide statute governing body cameras. They couldn't get that together. That was a few years ago. By the way, I just wanted to let people know also, I'm also hosting the Mother's Justice Show on 1150 AM KKNW. I've been on the air for 8 years, and I'm on every Monday from 2 to 3 in this market.
Carla, could you type that into the chat real quick? Or I'm just, because I want to just make sure that I get that information for folks who might be interested. Can you just...
I can say it again. It's 1150. Yes. It's 1150 AM KKNW.
And you said every Monday, you said?
Yeah, I'm on every Monday from 2 to 3. And the show is called Mother's Justice Show.
Great. Well, I'm sure that would be wonderful for folks who want to hear that. And since you're on every week, that's a great way to kind of keep up on a regular basis. Reverend Walden, we are out of time, but I want to thank you on behalf of the 34th so much for being with us and for sharing your background and expertise and working on doing such important work. We really appreciate your being with us tonight. So everyone, one more Zoom round of applause for Reverend Walden.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you. And she put it in the chat, but she should put KKNW as the call letters for that Zoom for the radio station. It's
Great.
KKNW. All right, thank you so much. I hope that you got everything you were looking for, and
Yes.
blessings on your day today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Real quick, Rachel, you never got to Elizabeth, did you? Unless she
About the body cams? Yes. Her question was about the body cams. Or
Okay,
the
great.
cameras.
All right, I'll lower the hand then.
Yes.
All right, great.
Right, then check out our website also. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, we got that in the chat. So
All
yeah.
right, thank you. Thank you so
You
much
bet.
for your courtesy. I appreciate your
Thank
courtesy.
you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Mhm.